Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Richard and you're watching Locknor Smithy Off-Grid. So today something I was going to talk about is a question people keep asking on the off-grid groups, they keep asking on our YouTube, and what they say is either I'd love to go off-grid to save money, or surely it's much cheaper to live off-grid than to live in a house. So I've made a few notes because there's quite a few things to go through, and I've tried to compare living off-grid and living in a normal house. Now, the first thing I'd say is that if you're living off-grid, your energy consumption and the amount of energy available is probably going to be significantly less than if you were living with a conventional electric or gas supply. So if you're looking forward to moving off-grid, or it's something you really want to do, I think the first thing, if you're living conventionally, is try and reduce your energy demand, reduce your energy consumption, and try alternative measures before you go the whole hog. You know, it's all well and good dreaming of these things, but it takes a certain type of person to live off-grid, you know, to manage that whole system. Like, you've got to be able to manage your power supply, generate your own electric, chop wood, all those things. To be able to do it economically, it's quite easy to buy a static caravan like this, or to move onto a small holding where you've got no electric. But if you aren't able to manage these things and set these things up, you'd be constantly relying on a big diesel generator, and undoubtedly the cost would be significantly higher than staying in a flat or a house in the town with a normal grid connection. So the first thing I was going to go through is like car, insurance, tax. Now, we have the same car that we would have if we lived in a house. Our insurance is $370 a year, our road tax is about $120 a year. It's an old car. Undoubtedly our attitudes have changed over the years because we've got older. You know, when I was younger I probably had a newer car on finance, and now I don't aspire to have those things. I'm quite happy with an old car that costs £600, you know. I don't dream of having that flash fancy motor now. So I suppose living off-grid, I'm driving a cheaper motor, my insurance is less, but these are things I think you could try. If you're living in a normal house, you're living on grid, I think you could try reducing your costs before you go that whole hog. So my car costs $370 to insure, road tax is $120 a year. There's not really any depreciation because the car's pretty much at scrap value. There's a few other running costs like MOT in it each year, tyres, but it's minimal. I would say that's the same as if you lived in a normal house, so I can't see any cost savings there. Gas, we use propane bottled gas, the big orange cylinders, the 47 kilo ones. Last year that was £400 a year. I've not bought gas recently. I'm aware of what's going on in the world. Mains electric, mains gas. I think mains gas has gone up fourfold. I'm not sure. I think propane's doubled just now, but it's going to go up more, so that's going to be more. Our electric costs about $400 a year to run. That's mainly diesel for the generator. Again, this year the cost of red diesel has gone up. Our diesel last year was bought at about 90p a litre. It's about 108 just now for red, if you can get it. There's been changes to the supply of red diesel since the 1st of April. We can still buy it from microgeneration for producing our own power, but we don't have a big diesel tank. We did have one in the past, but the diesel kept getting stolen, so it's like an issue we've got to get through. Our local petrol station was selling red diesel until the 1st of April. I don't know what's happened, but I noticed the diesel pumps for red diesel have now got HMRC tags on them. They're locked off, so something's happened there. So our gas is $400 a year just now. Our electrics costs $400 a year. The solar system cost $3,000 to set up, but that was an initial cost. Heat, we've got a wood burner. the wood's free. We've got our own trees. We've got 8.5 acres here. We did have quite a lot of trees. We've cut a lot down. We're down to about 4.5 acres of trees. We use pallets for kindling. We do work away from home, so we get scrap timber through our job. I suppose not everybody would get the wood for free, but I would think comparing a wood burner to mains gas or LPG, if you were buying hardwood logs at say £200 a load, it would probably be cheaper to use the gas. So we use a wood burning stove, that's free. You know, we chop it. At the moment, the cost for that's fairly minimal. We do use a petrol chainsaw. I am going to gear up the system. I've got my tractor fixed now, so I'm going to get a saw bench, a more modern one, and probably a log splitter, because the new dwelling there, the bothy, will use a lot more wood. So we've only got a 4.5 kilowatt wood burner in the caravan just now. In there's going a 12 kilowatt one, so undoubtedly we use at least double the wood. Now, comparing to a house in the town, so if you're on grid, last year I think your gas and electric for a couple like us in say a 2-bed house, I'm just trying to compare a 2-bed caravan to a 2-bed house, would have been about 1,080. Now, I've got no doubt with gas doubling and gas going up fourfold and electric doubling, that those costs will be significantly higher. So our off-grid system, there'll be a lot more savings, but from this I can see we're saving about £280 a year being off-grid. It's not a massive amount. We're putting more solar panels up to try and mitigate this diesel cost. I've discussed this in other videos, but again there's a capital cost to that. That's costing us a couple of grand to put an extra 25 solar panels on the roof there. But I'm just hoping to really pull that diesel cost down and reduce the gas cost. So I'm hoping basically to get down to a couple of £100 a year for our heating and electric bills. So it can be done, but it's capital cost up front. You have to invest that money into systems to make everything work when you're off grid. Whereas if you're on grid, you're just buying your gas and electric. Now, council tax, we do save money on council tax. I know in this area with water and sewerage, if we're living in the town, it would be, this is off a friend's council tax bill, he's paying £1,494.94 a year, and we don't have water or septic tankers, we don't have water or sewage disposal because we're off grid, and we're paying a reduced rate because we're in a static caravan. So our council tax is caravan council tax, and it's £699 a year. We pay that weekly just to make sure it's paid. So our council tax compared with being in the town is approximately half. TV licence, we have a TV licence, pay £159 a year. If we were living on grid, it would be £159 a year. I'm aware we could get away without paying the TV licence, you know, we could just bump them, or we could do away with the telly and maybe just watch YouTube, but we don't have Sky TV or anything, so we have quite a good TV reception here. We get Irish channels, so we get about 160 channels just now on terrestrial TV, so we pay it. So exactly the same as living on grid. But again, I suppose it's the way you look at things and how you look at your costs and everything. You know, us living here, we could easily, I suppose, approach Sky TV. We wouldn't get Sky Internet, but we could have the full Sky package and pay £100 a month. But it's, a lot of this living off grid and trying to save money, it's the way you think, it's mindset, it's reducing your consumption and trying to be more thrifty. Now, again, internet and phones, our costs are significantly higher being off grid because we don't have a landline. If we were on grid, I've looked at this, a friend's paying £25 a month for Sky for a landline and for internet, and I think they're paying £56 including the TV, so £25 for the internet. Now, we don't have dedicated internet. We've got a router in the caravan with a SIM, and we've basically got 3 contracts with EE. I've got a contract, Heather's got one tagging on the back of mine, and then we've got that one, so that costs us £8 a month for the SIM, and what we do is we get a data gift at the start of the month. So I've got unlimited data, and I basically give Heather 40 gig of data off my unlimited, which they say it's unlimited but it's 100 gig. So I keep 40 gig, I give her 40 gig, and I send 20 gig to that router just to run the internet here. So, you know, it's a cheaper way. Again, if you were living on grid in the town, you could have that same router, you could save money, be thrifty, do away with that landline. These are all things, if you're looking at going off grid and you've got all these costs, I'd really recommend trying to do without these things before you go off grid, because if you can't do without them now, you're not going to survive off grid. Mortgage and rent. So a friend with a 2-bed property in Stranraer is paying £500 a month rent. Rents are going up significantly where we are. They've been low for a long time. You know, 20 odd years ago that rent would have probably been £450 a month. He's now paying 500. I don't know what he'll be paying in 2 years' time, because there's a shortage of houses in this area. Property prices, I watch our local estate agent's website, and property prices have gone up about 30% in the last year, so we're glad to own this place and be out here. But again, we don't have mortgage or rent. You couldn't get a mortgage when we bought this place. We did have to take a personal loan out over 5 years, and that cost £300 a month. That's why initially we just literally had the caravan and these stables. There's an L-shaped stable block, so we've got like the utility room here, the room next door that we use as an extension to the caravan. And when that loan finished, we got permission for that shed there. Neighbours call it the big barn. That cost 12,000, but we literally did that over a 12-month period. We bought the frame, we dug the site out, we bought the materials, and we got that done. So although we don't have mortgage or rent, that money that we would be putting into mortgage or rent, we're putting into capital expenditure here to develop the property, make things easier for us. You can live off grid in a caravan with a shed, but by heck the winter's hard. You know, it's a lot nicer if you've got jobs you're doing at a weekend to work in a nice dry workshop, chop wood in a workshop when it's raining, store your wood indoors, not have to go outside. Like, this is all connected together, so we can go from the caravan through here into that big shed. We can park the car in the big shed, don't have to go outside when it's absolutely pelting down. So no, we don't have mortgage or rent, but we do have costs that we're using to build the place up. I suppose that's building equity. So our current mortgage and rent's nothing. If we were living in the town, it'd probably be 500 a month, because it's debatable if we could afford to buy anything there. Now, other costs, food, like your own veg and stuff. At the moment, we're not growing our own food because we both work full time. We are just about to set a veg garden up there. It's not going to be one of these amazing, immaculate veg gardens, a bit like Charles Dowding. It will be a similar system, it will be no dig. We will be using the horse manure as mulch. We're digging this hill out just now to build a woodworking workshop that I'm going to chop the logs in and do. You know, we're going to build a sawmill in there, and that's another part of our business moving forward to make this place pay. But we're going to be doing more to reduce our costs. Until now, it's been really cheap to buy food, regardless of what anybody says that's off grid. You know, you've been able to go into our local Morrison's and buy a big box of wonky veg for 30p and make soup. My time and effort and fertiliser, I couldn't grow fruit or veg for that money until now. Anybody that's paying the shopping bill just now will know how much it's gone up. You know, I had to buy all the food with my sister for a funeral on Monday, and my God, we noticed how much everything had gone up. So this year, at the end of the year, our plan is to establish this veg garden. The first thing is to fence it. We've got a lot of problems with pests here. We've got a pony that breaks out, we've got a lot of deer. we've got rabbits, so we're going to fence it before we start. We're going to lay it out with like paving slabs for paths, and then we're going to mulch it. We're going to put the old tarpaulins and stuff down to kill all the weeds, and then we're going to start establishing it. As part of that, we're putting hedgerows around the veg garden. We're putting hedgerows around the drive, but we're making those into what you'd call a food forest. So we're going to put blackthorn and hawthorn hedging, but we're going to include like gooseberry plants, raspberries, blackcurrants, you know, those sorts of things in the hedgerows to make it what you'd call a food forest. And we're also going to, every 20 foot, we're going to plant a tree. We're not going to plant your traditional trees, we're going to plant like apples, plums. So basically we've not just got the veg garden, we've got food around the outside of the property that will attract the birds, and it will help the ecology of the site, but also we don't have to manage those crops. You know, we can just walk down the drive, pick apples, make our jam, pick fruit. I don't want to have one of these immaculate veg gardens with rows of fruit canes that we have to spend hours every week looking after, because that defeats the point of like being off-grid, in my opinion. I know people do that and they spend their life looking after a veg garden, but we just don't want to do that. So we're going to have a small dedicated veg garden for growing, and then our fruit and like our fruit's going to be in the hedgerows, so it'll be a food forest. So again, I don't have any costs. What we're going to save on that, at the moment our shopping bill is about £80 a week. You know, ideally we would reduce that by half, but let's see. So that's running through the costs of living off grid to living on grid. As you'll see, the main cost savings are by mindset, I would say, by reducing your consumption rather than actually living this way. So the best advice I could give anybody that's looking to go off grid is, before you go off grid, at least try and reduce your consumption. If you're living in a house in the town and you've got gas central heating and it's costing you a fortune, I would try turning the thermostat down. I know that sounds really simple, but if you can't cope with the cold when you're in a town, I would think living off grid you're going to find pretty difficult, because it can be cold, the winters can be hard. Again, if you own your own house, try fitting a wood burner and try chopping your own logs. If you can't do that, if you can't cope with cutting wood, if you don't enjoy it, again, living off grid is going to be expensive. If you're living in a property like this and you're having to buy logs, when you're buying them off a woodman or coal, it's not really cheaper than mains gas. Might be later on this year with the price of gas going up, but again, there's not going to be massive cost savings unless you're able to harvest that wood yourself, chop your own sticks and save money that way. And of course, cutting wood keeps you warm, keeps you fit, keeps you healthy. You know, same with council tax, I suppose. Living on grid, you could try and reduce your council tax. You could try and move into a smaller, cheaper property. You know, if you're living in a 5-bed detached house just now, doubtful you're going to be living in a 5-bed detached house when you're off grid. You're probably going to be in a property like this, a caravan. So I would try living a cheaper, easier way of life. You know, cut these costs down, like cut your internet and your Sky out. Try and reduce your rent. Try and reduce your mortgage. Restructure your finances. There's a lot of people do a lot of talking about this and dreaming for the day they move off grid. But I would think, you know, if you're in your mid-50s and you say, well, when I retire, I'm going to move off grid, I'm going to move to Scotland, I'm going to sell my house in England, draw that equity out, buy a bit of land. Rather than dreaming about it for years, you ought to be doing it. You know, try doing it, try going camping at your weekends and on your holidays. There are off-grid holiday cottages up here, cabins that you can stay in, and actually get a taste of what you're going to be letting yourself in for, to see if you can do it, if you enjoy it. I've seen comments on some of the Facebook groups and on my own videos. There was a lady commented the other day that said, I admire what you're doing, but we hated it off grid. So it's not for everybody, you know. I suppose having to get up in the middle of the night and put diesel in the generator, bleed it when everything goes off. It takes a certain type of person, you know, practical skills, determination, all these things. So anyway, that's my comparison of living off-grid to living on-grid. I hope you enjoyed it. If you don't mind subscribing to the YouTube channel, giving us a thumbs up, dropping a comment down below. If you've got anything else you want me to do a video about, just drop a comment and I'll try and cover that in another subject. So thank you folks.